This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today was born in 1985 in Romania, at a time when the country was under communist rule. His family escaped before the revolution and landed in an Austrian refugee camp in 1990. After immigrating to Canada and eventually reuniting with his siblings, Ben developed a passion for life and a gratitude mindset. His parents' sacrifice for a better life developed a deep sense of responsibility within him early on in his life. His dream of building an empire, motivating, entertaining, and investing in other people spawned to become humble, where he gives, creates gratitude, and growth mindset. Please welcome my guest, Ben Muresan, aka Ben Humble.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. Super excited to talk with you and impact some folks that are listening today.
Yeah, Ben, your story is tremendous. What I thought was really neat was going to your website and seeing your book cover. And your book cover, whoever created that, I'm sure you had a big play in it. You seem very artistic. Really got the picture that we just spoke about here by having that split image of half of you with a tank behind you in Romania, and then the other half with the lifestyle that people aspire to have today with your Lambo behind you on the other half. And it just speaks volumes, that picture there. I am very interested in, of course, the book, but while we're on the topic of your upbringings, could you share a little bit more about that, what you overcame in order to get to where you are?
Yeah, my parents are my two greatest heroes in life, mom and dad. Big shout out to them. Born in a communist country, we're told what to think, what to believe, what to do, how to behave, where to stand. There are no freedoms, zero. No freedom of expression, freedom of faith. So mom and dad, being people of faith, had to make a tough decision. They said, this can't be all of life. This can't be our future. We have to do something. And they made a tough decision to leave their mother tongue, their motherland, and to leave their family and ran across the border. Dad had 5 children at the time. He's 27 or 28 years old. 5 kids. He can only carry 3. So he has to make a decision about who to leave. And he ran with this faith in God, and he also ran with this idea that if he got to where he was going, which was a refugee camp, hopefully at some point the Red Cross or another organization would reunite the family. So he had to leave 2 kids with a neighbor. Hardest thing he's ever done. And we ran across that border. It took 2.5 days of running with a small caravan of people, very well organized. 2.5 days later, we arrived at this refugee camp in Austria. And people weren't really running with kids, because you would get caught or shot. So he arrives in Austria, little kids, and we're in a refugee camp for the next 6 months. That's the beginning of life. So for me, when you start that way and you overcome the greatest of fears, the greatest of challenges right from the beginning of your life, nothing is impossible. Literally nothing is impossible. The adversity that we had, to me, adversity is a superpower if you choose. It can either fuel you or it could turn you into a victim. And that is a choice that we make every single day. And so I love adversity. I love people who come from difficult situations. I love minorities. I love the fact that people who start with tough things in life, I believe, live with a different type of conviction about what they can have.
That's incredible. When you're speaking about running for 2 days, so this is just nonstop movement on the go to this refugee camp in this like war-torn country. You were very young at the time. What were your memories like of that situation?
I was about 5 years old. I knew that it took us 2 days to get there, and we would have to hide and cross at night. So we'd have to hide in the ditches, in the brush, and we'd have to try to cross the border. And if we could cross the border successfully, then a small car would pick us up and drive us to the next border, drop off again. We had to get through 2 countries because the neighboring country would return us back to Romania. So, the memories I have are vague of that excursion. But I do have some memories of being in the refugee camp, of being a kid who didn't speak. We landed in Austria, so I didn't speak German. And I had to learn. And I remember being in the refugee camp, and I remember some of the other kids there. I remember going to a local pub every day, and they had a television, so they would have those old Batman movies from the 80s. And I remember sitting there watching this, kind of TV and seeing glimpses. I have glimpses of Batman from the 80s. And they used to call me Batman, like the young kid who just sit here and watch Batman all day. So there's a couple memories. But, at 5 years old, a lot of it is a fog.
Yeah.
A lot of it is a fog. And what's weird is when I hear the stories from my parents, I don't know if some of it I remember or some of it I'm just imagining. It's a tough, blurry line.
Yeah.
From that age.
I can imagine.
I also suppressed some of this stuff because it was a stressful period.
I'm sure, and I'm sure some of it is intentional blockage, right? And what about life before that? What was that like? Do you remember, or were you told stories about what life before leaving your home was like for you guys? Yeah,
it was communism. So everything that you saw was propaganda, was control, was manipulation, and people would be walking down the road and a random line would form outside of a store, and you would just stand there for hours in this random line because they were giving out some ration. So you would wait in bread lines. You would try to get rations. Everybody stole in communism. Everybody was a thief because you had to do whatever you could do to get an edge. So if you worked in a shoe factory, you would steal material and leather and shoestrings, and you would go home and build a pair of shoes, and you would use that to bribe people. You couldn't go to the hospital and deliver a child without an envelope for the doctor or a gift for the doctor. Everything was gift, everything was bribing. It's a horrendous way to live.
Wow.
But like anything else, people can become conditioned to really tough situations, and they just make the best of it. My dad built us basically a stove in an apartment because in the winter, for the Communist Party to save money, they would cut the hydro at like 9 p.m., meaning nobody had heat all night. We would just freeze, all of us, because that's how they decided they were going to save money. So I think in some regard, them wanting to serve the people and pay off the deficit and do all these different things, I think was noble, but it was extremely poor execution because it was at the expense of the people. And my dad got some metal piping from work, and he literally built himself a little heater. He was very resourceful. So the people back then, Romanians are probably the most resourceful individuals, but I find they have a hard time collaborating, probably because years of communism. So Romanians as a group and as a community, not that strong. But the Romanian individual, there's this old adage back home, Romanian can do anything. He can fly a plane, he can cook, he can run for office, he can do just about anything. They're very, very resourceful, industrious people. But as a community, there's really no fellowship. There's no real community. So that's the pro and the negative, I guess, if you're from that culture.
That comes from that, yeah. And it sounds like your dad had this incredible mindset in order to overcome what was happening at home. Do you know where he found that mindset for himself?
Totally. It was 100% because of his faith. My dad chose to be a Christian in a time where it wasn't popular to be a Christian. He chose to become a Christian, and out of that choice came resourcefulness. You had to become resourceful. You weren't allowed to just be a Christian or have a different faith. Everything was spies and hidden agendas. And so I believe my dad was a product of his conditioning. And my mom. They were born into an era where they made a choice, and they were going to be persecuted for that choice regardless. But they had to become resourceful people. Like, I've heard stories of people sticking Bibles into spare tires and rolling them from one village to the next village down the hill. That's what they would do, hidden churches. So we grew up kind of in an underground environment, if you will. And if you were labeled a Christian back then, you didn't have freedoms. You didn't have choice. You're not going to get the good jobs in government. You're not going to go to the good schools. You're not going to get the good trade. You're going to get the grunt work in the military, because back then everybody had to go to the military. So my dad just said, there's no future here for me and my children. I have to go. And in propaganda, it's hard to believe, but American movies were illegal. People used to smuggle VHS tapes and have little watch parties, and they would sit in front of their little TV that they could find, and they would watch these things. And probably the most outlawed thing during that time was to see Americans feasting. Thanksgiving and dinner feast, all those Christmas movies were probably the worst thing for the communist leaders, because they showed one thing, that Americans had food. Because we were told that Americans slept under bridges, that they had no food, that they were broke. They had to create a narrative where nobody wanted to leave. And that's how communism works. They have to control the narrative.
I never knew that. That they control the narrative to that extent. I have some questions about your dad, a couple more about him. But with what you're talking about in terms of controlling the narrative, and you're a big believer in mindset, I mean, this just speaks to the narrative that people tell themselves all day long, right? I mean, you're coming from a communist rule where the government is telling you this, giving you this scarcity mindset. But there's people right here in America and, you know, in well-to-do countries that have a mindset that's very similar to where they have this scarcity mindset. And my understanding from what you do at Humble is you help people get out of that mindset, right?
I built kind of an algorithm for getting out of that nonsense. And it starts with giving first. Most of us are waiting to receive before we give, and we don't understand the power of reciprocity, the power of giving. The way that your heart, see, you can live like this with a closed fist, and no money can ever leave, no abundance, nothing can ever happen. You never give, you never help, you never do anything, but nothing comes in. Or you can live with an open hand, and money can pour out, abundance can pour in, and you can live in abundance or scarcity, and people choose scarcity. In a country like America or Canada, with so much abundant resource, to live in scarcity, to me, is a catastrophic sin, because we lack perspective. We lack perspective of what it's like to be in North America with no surrounding enemies, right? We have all this water around us. What a blessing that is. And then we look at Europe, where it's basically like if you took all the states, made them all different countries, that's Europe. Your neighbor is your enemy. Your other neighbor is your ally. And you can't possibly understand what it's like to be in the center of a group of countries and you become an enemy. Like, it's so difficult to perceive. So I think perspective is key for people. I think if in North America you took the time to travel, you took the time to see how other people live, if you took the time to really understand the way that life works outside of a first world bubble, I think you would gain greater perspective and, frankly, a lot more gratitude. But because we are so distracted by things like social media and Facebook and posts and algorithms and all this bullshit, we're so distracted by this stuff because, frankly, nobody wants our awareness to increase. Nobody wants our perspective to grow. When I made the most money and I grew the most is when my awareness grew the most. I realized what was possible. My dad had a vision. My mom had a vision. And they realized what was possible. Like, to say whatever it is, but those Romanian movies that got smuggled in, where people got to see Americans winning, that created hope. That's why they were outlawed. Because they created hope for a group of people that were hopeless, that were controlled, that were manipulated. So if you're in this country, if you're in America, oh my God, are you incredibly blessed. You don't need more evidence that abundance is all around you. You don't need more proof. It's everywhere. You need to get off of Facebook. You need to stop looking at the narrative that does not serve you, and that's a choice. The addiction to this narrative, the addiction to negativity, the addiction to social media, the addiction to being distracted is the exact reason why you're living in scarcity. Stop being distracted. Make a choice to actually open your eyes. That's huge.
You speak about, I like how you associate it to addiction. these negative habits that we have or that we've learned as a culture, and you relate them to addiction. You said it more than once. I'm interested in your take on that.
Anything that you feed grows. Simple as that. Anything that you feed yourself positive energy, you feed yourself good thoughts, those are going to start growing. They're going to manifest into reality. You feed yourself news and negativity and not understanding what the news is. The news is a business. The news is driving revenue through ads, through attention. If they can capture your attention, then they win. That's how the news wins. Of course, there's going to be headlines and stories. If the news had no headlines, you wouldn't watch it. And when you finally open your eyes to realize that you are feeding yourself this poison, eventually it turns into an addictive behavior. You are so addicted to scrolling your thing, to getting the latest news event. You're so addicted to belonging to a group of people who live with, there's never been more anxiety and depression than right now. We've got somebody who's a friend of ours talking about it, and they're a professional psychologist. There's never been more depression and anxiety than right now, which is absolutely absurd with the level of abundance we have. So it's as simple as this. Most people are living in an addicted state of mind. They're addicted to the scarcity. They're addicted to the negativity. How do I know? Because I mentor people all the time. Thousands of people come through my ecosystem. And money making isn't about money. It has nothing to do with money. The reason you're not rich has nothing to do with money or the business vehicle. The reason you're not wealthy is because you're addicted to putting up walls and barriers, and you have low emotional resiliency. And you have no real drive or ambition because you're addicted. You're consuming, not creating. So I think people are consuming every day. They're consuming negativity. They're consuming television. They're consuming a bunch of crap that doesn't serve them. They're consuming pornography because they're failing in their marriage. They're consuming the internet because they're failing in their business. Mind, you have to protect what's in here. Your spirit is your grounding, how you feel, how you operate, what your core values are. But you have a head, you have a heart, and you have hands. And it's your job. Every single one of us has agency over our lives. We all have willpower. And I think when people give up their willpower, they give up their agency and they go, it's not up to me. The government screwed me. My employer screwed me. It's all negative. People are shooting each other. Left and right division. You are choosing that scarcity. I don't choose it. Now, you might say, but dude, then are you ignorant? Are you unaware? Are you uneducated? And I would respond with, I'm educated in the things that produce a purposeful life, and I am not educated in the things that produce scarcity. I don't give a shit who's famous, who's not famous, who's causing drama, which politician is blah, blah, blah. You either stand up and do something about the problem, you hide and gossip all day, or you physically move your body to another place that has less conflict. Pick one. I will never hide and gossip. What do you think? That's my take on this situation.
Yeah, I mean I feel the same way. I don't watch the news. I don't go on social media. People are amazed by that sometimes, and I'm like, I hired a social media manager for that reason. Was, in the beginning, I had to post a lot. I had to be on social media and see what the trends were and everything, and what happens is, they build these algorithms in order to suck us in. And so you get sucked in a little bit, and I didn't want to be there. So I hired a social media manager. That's what helped me be able to put some space between me and social media and what happens there. But yeah, so I stay away from all of that. And then the other thing, like what you said about, staying in a place where I focus on what is productive, and it's not being ignorant to what's happening around us. And that's what I tell my team too, is it's acknowledging, hey, look, I can acknowledge what's happening that in a bad light around us in a negative space. We could acknowledge it. But to your point, if you're not writing letters to politicians, if you're not running for Senate, if you're not at the town halls standing up and speaking, then there is no need to just start going off about it with your friends at a dinner table. there's something much more productive that you could do with your friends at a dinner table. It could be like, how can we grow our businesses? How can we become better people? What can we do for our community? How can we serve our community? And if part of that is the politics, then great. Now bring it to town hall. Now run for politics or whatever it is that you're trying to change. But I love that. What you're saying.
I want to affirm that real quick because I really agree with you in that statement that if you're not part of the solution, don't be part of the conversation.
Right.
That to me, you want to talk about a shortcut in life? If it's not a solution, if it's not a level of abundance or impact, I'm not even part of the conversation. I'll give you a big hack for your community. It's real simple. Create something every single day. My greatest happiness comes from growth. In fact, all of us as humans, we're the happiest when we're productive because growth is an intrinsic human need. If you're growing, you can find happiness. When you don't grow, you start to die. Simple as that. So you have a choice every day. You can create something new or you can consume the same thing over and over again. I've heard it from a psychologist that over 70% of our thoughts are repeated every day. So if you have negative garbage from yesterday, you're actually going to repeat 70% of that negativity again today, and then 70% of today's negativity again tomorrow, and then again tomorrow, and you are replaying the same negativity movie, the same conversations, the same situations, the same problems, the same bullshit over and over from day to day. You are carrying your baggage with you day to day to day. That's powerful. If you know that, the way that you break it for me is I create something new today. And that could be whatever. That could be a business. That could be a relationship. That could be going to the gym and creating a new habit. That could be creating a new product or service for my ecosystem. That could be creating music that I'm passionate about. That can be creating anything, but you have to be in a state of creation if you want to be in a state of abundance. A state of consumption will put you into scarcity because there will never be enough, ever, when you're a consumer. You will always find scarcity through consumption, because you believe the world is limited and so are resources. So I would just challenge people, when you create, you get out of your horrible thinking. When you consume, you stay there and you repeat it day in and day out.
That is huge. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so speaking about creating, when I was checking out your website, I saw that there's a music space for it in terms of your creation, and you developed a passion at a really young age for playing the piano in church. And I'm interested in the music and what you create there.
Dude, I love music. Every person has a passion. Like, what's your passion? What do you love doing?
I love doing this, man. So the podcast came out of a passion. I tell everybody that when they ask me, hey, I want to start a podcast, I want to do what you're doing. I'm like, you got to be passionate about it.
I believe so. And I think all of us can find passions. And to me, passions they're interesting. They're kind of like this wart that flares out and flares back in. Like when you live in your passions and you flare it out and you're fully engaged in your passions, I think that helps so many different areas of life, and to me, that's music. The best example or the best definition of music came from a pastor that we had who said that music has the ability to reach the corners of the soul where the spoken word cannot. And because I'm highly intentional in everything I do, because I really care about outcome, because I really care about impact, because I really just love and understand music at a level most people will never appreciate music, I love to produce it. I love to create it. And, I got into this whole business and real estate thing back at 21 with a very clear intention, which was to become financially free and go back to playing music on my own terms. I didn't want to be a street performer. I didn't want to be just some dude who has a struggling artist. I wanted to be an artist and play the music I love to play and inspire people. So to me, music has very inherently growth-oriented qualities that it helps fuel my spirit. And if I do it for me and it fuels my spirit, it may fuel your spirit. And to me, it comes back to this really pure definition of how I live my life. Is I've learned that I have two choices. I can feed the flesh or I can feed the spirit. And if I feed the spirit, that's doing good. And I starve the flesh, trying to just always feel good, I'll eventually get to a level of fulfillment. And fulfillment is better than feeling. Most of us are trying to feel. Most of us are so addicted, again, that word, to the dopamine hit, to the scroll, to the cheeseburger, to all the stuff that we're addicted to, trying to feel good in the moment, and then we sacrifice the year, our life. So I think music is one of those things that it's just, you do good. You do good. It's the same with business. I just do good. I do good. I do good over and over again until I wake up one day. People go, what's the secret to your success? Dude, I starved the flesh. That's the secret to my success. I remove the things that most people are addicted to. I just remove addictions from my life. You're not seeing a person who's successful. You're just seeing a person who's not addicted. And if you can just remove the addictions, you can discover life. So I'm not better than anybody. I don't have any specific benefit or anything that I could disclose as like this is what makes me better. There's no endowment. It's just I made a choice to not live in addiction. I made a choice to choose happiness. So
I think something that makes a really good example of that is, our conversation off air a little bit about some of your podcast guests, because you also host a podcast. And when I was checking out your list, I saw some really top-notch podcast guests where I was like, man, how did he get that person? And man, he must know somebody, or must be the PR agent that hooked him up, or whatever it was. And so one of my first questions to you before we even went live was, how did you book Dean Graziazzo? Because he's one of those high level people, hard to get to people. And I loved your response, and I'm going to allow you to share that with everyone because I think it speaks to what you just talked about.
Yeah, so Dean, it's just outreach, man, personal outreach. It's no fancy trick. It's no fancy tip. There's no agency out there getting it done for me. And by the way, I do pay people for this stuff, but my best outcomes have always come from a personal connection and outreach.
Right.
Hey, I think the world needs to hear your message. I have a platform. I have an audience. I want to share it with you. It's going to be incredibly impactful. It's going to be incredibly special. And we will honor your life. We will honor what you've done. I want to help you take your message to a broader audience. When you finally approach people from a personal connection, people know. See, people know those who are desperate. Desperation is one of the ugliest human traits. Very ugly and very obvious. So when you're like desperately trying to feel your podcast reel and you're so transactional in all your conversations and everything just becomes about you and your narrative and you're not really serving or helping anybody, what are you giving? I can tell you a big secret for all my podcast guests, which was I like music a lot, so much that in 45 of my episodes, I wrote a custom rap song for every single participant. If you go to my series, there's a rap song for every single guest. And then I wrote them the song. It took me 40 minutes. I recorded the song. I played the song live. And then I sent it to them on a little iPod shuffle thing where they could watch the video or whatever. Why? Because I believe in giving the kind of gift that only you can give. Nobody can give a gift like I can give if it comes from my passion. People go, wow, that's an awesome trick. I'll try to do rap songs. You better be passionate about it, right? So I believe in this idea of giving. Give the kind of gift that only you can give. Live in the kind of gratitude where you create abundance, and then growth comes from that. Mental, spiritual, emotional, relational, physical, financial. But you gotta be in this giving attitude. Most people are like, listen, the secret to booking podcasts is don't just be a generic podcast. Nobody cares. There's a billion podcasts. Every single one of them wants to be a podcast. You better come with some level of conviction, some level of value, some level of professionalism, and some level of care. And if you don't, people know. Listen, I like you. This is a good show. I've been on other shows that they're like, I have 7 questions. Let me ask you. I'm like, don't ever email me again. I will never be a guest on your show. Right? And it's not because they're not trying to do a podcast. It's a transactional thing. And it bothers me. Right? So I just think live life in the way where you're consciously giving value to people, helping people. And give value is very generic. It's a completely overused term these days. And what I really mean by give value is make a genuine connection. That's what I mean by give value. Make it a genuine connection, a genuine expression of gratitude, a genuine expression of appreciation, of admiration, a genuine expression of respect. And I think that word gets lost. It's no longer genuine.
Right.
It's general.
Yeah, it does. You're right. I speak about that too a lot in terms of the genuine connections, is that you can't make it up. You got to be real. Like, you can find little things in common, but you have to be real. And I love the fact that you touched on the podcast and the passion there, because it's so true. People reach out to me and they're like, hey, I want to have a podcast. I just touched on it earlier. And I'm like, you got to be passionate about it, because it's not easy, right? And you know this with music, you know this with anything that is kind of like this, like in the creative space. It's not easy. You're not going to land guests right away. You're not going to land the biggest guest. You're not going to grow your audience to a huge amount right away. It's going to take time. And in that time, if you're not passionate about it, it's going to show. And you're right, it's going to become transactional, because you're just going to be pushing. Where when you start off with passion, when you are passionate about it, the audience doesn't matter. And I remember this about 2 years ago when I first started the podcast. My uncle asked me this at the dinner table. He said, how many people are listening? How many people you have subscribed? He started asking me all these questions that, typically are out there. And I said, I don't know. And he looked at me and he was just like, how do you run this show and you don't know? And my answer to him was based off of passion. I said, I don't care. I said, right now, I'm just putting in the work. I'm just grinding and I'm learning. And what I care about is if one person on the other end gets value, everything that you're talking about. I care, like even in this episode right now with you, if we have an audience of 100,000 people, let's say, I wish, right now it's not there, but one day, and only one person walks away, that one person connected with you, they have a story like yours, they learn something from you, that's what we care about. And because I know you feel the same way. Just going back to the walls and the barriers that people build and this emotional strength that you talk about, I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit, because that is, we go back to scarcity mindset. We go back to why people struggle in their everyday pursuit of happiness. It's the walls that they've created around them, or that someone else has created around them. And it's the emotional strength to break through those walls, I believe, that they might not, I don't want to say that they lack, because everybody has it in them. They just need to find that sense of belief. And so I'm interested in I love that you said hack before, so let's use that word again. I'm interested into your hack to breaking down those barriers. And I know you touched on it a little bit, but I just want to dive deeper there.
Yeah, so for me, the idea of struggle leads to this powerful thing called conviction. I think struggle is a good thing, not a bad thing. I'm going to reframe that for me. I want struggle. I want it to be difficult, because I know something about difficulty. Most people shy away from the difficulty, which means my competition goes way down. If you're prepared to struggle through your first real estate deal, you're prepared to struggle through your first business deal, most people won't. They'll just give up. They'll go to another thing, because inherently they don't believe, or they don't understand that struggle is part of the equation. Nobody is gifted or talented enough to avoid the struggle. But yet somehow we continue to try to push this narrative. So I'm like, struggle is how you struggle. You can struggle, and I found one of the greatest qualities in people that I hire and people that I spend time with is one thing: emotional resiliency. See, I'm okay with getting hit. I'm okay with the struggle. I'm okay with getting knocked down. What I'm not okay with is staying down. Emotional recoil is the word that I like to use for my team. Hey, when you get hit, how fast do you recoil? It's like hit, recoil. Some people get hit and they stay down for a month. Oh man, I'm struggling. Okay, well, you were struggling yesterday. That's old news. What else is up? Well, I'm struggling. Change some stuff. Adapt. So I think that it's okay to struggle, but I want to struggle better, and I want to struggle on things that are really, really impactful. Like, I love helping people, and I love getting on a stage, and I believe I was made to be put on stage and inspire people. It's a struggle, but I love it. It's a struggle, but I'm growing through it. It's a struggle, but I'm figuring it out. So I'm okay with the struggle. What I'm not okay with is, I got hit, and instead of recoiling, instead of resurrecting, I lay there dead, and the only thing you find when you don't get up is complacency. You find complacency, which turns into complaining, which turns into depression, which turns into a whole life of negativity. So, dude, I think it's so powerful when people And I run a group called Hard Knocks, and Hard Knocks is a group of real estate investors that came together. We built one company, and we're struggling through acquiring $5 million of assets under management for this one group. And they're like, oh, so how are we going to do this? I'm like, you're going to figure it out as we struggle. I'm like, you get to struggle together. It is a joy. It is a privilege. And I think that when a person finally says that, you know what, I'm okay with the struggle, man. I'm going to put on a smile. I'm going to struggle, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to progress through it because I know progression is the most basic human need, which means I need to struggle to progress. If I don't struggle, then I can't progress. Stagnant. So, struggle or stagnant, pick one. I love the struggle. So I just think for people listening, it's important to make a distinction and go, if you're in a hard place right now, if you're struggling to get somewhere right now, if it's a tough time in your business, in your real estate, and whatever you're trying to do in your marriage, my dad taught me that struggling is like two rough stones. And as you create friction on those stones, eventually they start to polish, and eventually you get smooth surfaces. But it requires friction. Without friction, you don't polish anything. So I think you get to become the most refined version of yourself through your personal struggle. Your business, through struggling, will find the right customer avatar. Your marriage, through struggling, will find out how you can live with the person and how you can have two different personalities under one roof in some level of harmony. The struggle. So I hope I'm not going too far on this rabbit hole, but dude, I think people, they avoid this pain, this hardship, this difficulty, and it comes back to adversity. If you've never had to go through adversity, then you have a very polished, wrong word, very bubble life. And it's tough for you to acknowledge an immigrant like me who says, give me the fucking struggle. You can't swear on this show.
Yes, you can.
I will swear on this. Why? Because I want the struggle. I want a hater to show up after you. If I can get enough people to call on this show and go, I hate this guy. He spoke all kinds of negativity, dropped 3 F-bombs. I hate this guy. I know this. It's not one person that will love us. There's going to be a whole group of people that disconnected with. People fundamentally want one thing, and that is truth. They want truth. And that's what the struggle gives you. The struggle is your greatest teacher. Because the struggle will help you determine who you are and how you show up in the face of adversity. My favorite version of a man is one who is struggling, because only in the struggle does he reveal his true character. You know how many real estate investors are living in a false positive because for the last decade the market's been rallying up? You're not smart. You got into the right market. You haven't developed really complicated character building traits. I want to see the next 18 months. Show me that. And if somebody goes to the next 18 months, 24 months, that's the individual you should plug in with, because that person was willing to struggle and become resilient and become resourceful. And once you finally get those internal mechanisms going, it's just a matter of time before you find financial success.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on the adversity. I think about it sometimes not sometimes, all the time with myself, in that for me, I struggled with a temper, with acting out in class and getting in trouble a lot, talking back to teachers and things like that. And what that did for me by getting in that trouble, by having to leave my schools, was it caused me. Well, there's choices, right? And you talked about choices. The choice I could have made was been like, I'm just a bad kid, and I'm going to go down that route of being a bad kid in life and becoming a bad adult, or make a choice and say, I got to be self-aware and self-reflect, and how do I change this? And so changing those behaviors to become the person that I want to become. And I talk about this with my coach all the time. I'm like, I feel bad for the people who don't have that adversity, who don't have that struggle, who don't have that teacher that might have put them in detention, or that spouse that might say that you're, hurting my feelings, or whatever it is, right? Because they don't then self-reflect to change. And then they stay, to your point, in that bubble. So I think that struggle is very important and teaches us so many lessons. I know, obviously, in our conversation, it's taught you a tremendous amount of lessons. One of the things that I remember you talking about and Dean talking about, and you also mentioned it in this show here, is about being able to put on the life preserver first in order to put it on others. And you talked about your success in the real estate world, and I'm interested in how you were able to build such a successful company at such a young age.
Well, I was in music school at university, and my teacher said, "You're the most talented but laziest kid we got." I really wasn't a hard worker. You know, I got used to just being a musician. I wanted to play. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to joke. And she said, "You're talented, but you're lazy." And she said, "You're never going to ever be a high school music teacher if you keep this up." I was like, "What? That's what I'm here for?" And she's like, "Yeah." She instantly put a cap on what I could do. So I dropped out. And I did the only thing that an immigrant kid knows how to do, which is clean. I started a cleaning company, cleaning floors, cleaning carpets, cleaning toilets, cleaning windows, everything, cleaning. My mom was my first customer. In fact, I went to her and I said, "Hey, listen, I think you should pay me to clean my own room. Those carpets are filthy. I know the guy living there. It is not a good deal. Pay me." Mom paid me $100 to clean my own room.
Love it.
My first customer. So
that's the real hustle. Sorry, that's the real hustle.
That's the real hustle. Right there. I was like, I got to figure this out. I'm like, I'm going to get in the business, and I'm going to get to a point financially where I can take care of me, my family, mom, and never have to worry about money again. That's where I want to get to that point. So I'm cleaning floors, cleaning carpets, and I'm progressively struggling and learning. I had to learn how to go and work evenings because most carpet cleaning and stripping and waxing floors and all that kind of stuff happens after 9 p.m. So now I have to develop a work ethic. After 9 p.m., I'm cleaning. I'm working in the cold. I'm working with hoses and hot chemicals. In the middle of winter, my hands are cracking and blistering. I'm driving a 94 Dodge Caravan with a broken handle because that's the only car I could find for $800 to buy it and run my cleaning equipment out of. And I'm doing whatever I could do. I joined a local group, a $500 group called the BNI, Business Networking something or other.
Yep, international.
Now, I'm in this room with 10 other business owners, and I'm the carpet cleaning guy. And I'm in this room trying to do business, and I got a very, very positive side benefit, which is I got to learn about all these other businesses. An insurance guy, and there's a bank guy, and there's a window installer guy, and there's a gal who does this, and another gal who does this, another gal who does that. And then there's a guy in there who's the mortgage broker. And so we get to talk, and 3 months later he goes, "Hey, so how's your business?" I'm like, "It's okay, but I really want to find something better." I read this book, Rich Dad or something else, Rich Dad, Poor Mom, something like that.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, yep.
That's the book, yep, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's, I kind of got some different ideas. And I read a passage somewhere in a book, I forget what book it was, but it said, if you want to become a millionaire, all you have to do is buy $1 million worth of real estate, and then these people called tenants will pay it off for you, and in 25 years, you're a millionaire. So I'm talking to this guy, and he says, real estate's a way better vehicle for you than cleaning. And he explained to me and kind of broke it out to me. I said, great. I said, well, give me some real estate. So he's like, okay, go to the bank and see if you qualify. Of course I didn't. I didn't have the credit history. I didn't have enough income. I didn't have all the requirements. And I said, the bank said no. He said, okay, well, I'm a mortgage broker. Let's look at some other options. And what happened was I actually bought a house from him. He had an old duplex that used to be a convenience store that he had bought to fix and flip, and it still looked like a convenience store. It was a box with like stone facade on the outside, and he takes me to the ugliest building in town. He goes, "This is my building." And I'm like, wow, real estate. This is so cool. And I walked in, and it needed some work, and I'm like, I can clean the hell out of this place. I'm good at cleaning. By this point, I'm already in the cleaning game, right? I've already been in the cleaning game for a year. I said, I just don't have the money. He says, well, we have things called B lenders and private money. We have all these people that you can get a loan from. So I bought the place for $126 from him. It was probably worth $100, but I overpaid because he helped me set up the financing. So I got into this place. I bought this duplex. I assumed a tenant when I moved in. And the day that I moved in, I was paying $156 a month plus utilities to own this duplex. I parked my 94 Dodge van out back with the busted door. I go to the store. I buy all the best cereal I can find. Cereal, because when you're a communist kid and I'm the oldest of 9 kids, we grew up with not a lot of cereal options. So I bought like 4 or 5 boxes of cereal, the expensive stuff. I bought 2 jugs of milk. I called my brother. I was like, bro, we're gonna party tonight. Bring the Xbox. Bring the Xbox. I got Lucky Charms on top of Count Choculas, on top of all the sugary cereals. I'm like, we're going to make this thing happen. So brother came over, and that was the genesis of my real estate experience. And I bought that property. I kind of bit the bug. And dude, here's the big thing for most people. I didn't have YouTube back then. I didn't have all these resources. What I had was these like weekend seminars that would pop up for $500, $1,000, and I would just go. I would drive 4 or 5 hours just to go watch a guy speak about real estate. I would buy every single book on real estate. I would ask. The biggest thing I did was I looked up all of the realtors in town, and I looked at the ones that I knew from either I went to high school with their kids, or at this age they were becoming realtors. The kids that I went to high school with, and I started calling my old buddies from grade school and high school. And I said, hey, I heard you're in real estate. Can I buy you a coffee? I want to learn about this. How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? And one of my buddies from grade school, from the church, I ended up buying 70 houses with the guy. 70 with one guy. Because after I bought the first duplex, 5 months later, I'm looking through the newspaper. I found another one for sale. It was a non-conforming secondary suite. I knocked on the guy's door. I was like, I'll buy it. He's like, do you have money? I was like, no. I need your help to figure out the financing. So I just asked him, this random homeowner, how to figure out creative finance. By the time I got married at 23, I owned 3 duplexes. I had 5 tenants, and I was living in one of my own duplexes, basically without paying any expenses. That was at 23 years old. So resourcefulness, a willingness to just talk to people, a willingness to drive 4 hours to Toronto back and forth to just learn from a random person for an hour or two, reading every book that I could, carpet cleaning in the evenings, and then 3 or 4 hours a day of studying real estate, watching HGTV like crazy, trying to figure out this business. And it was just that. It was literally, I learned something new every day. And eventually it led me to enough information, enough courage that I would go knock on doors and try to put deals together.
You said a lot there that I want to kind of just highlight, but my favorite part of everything you just said that I wrote down was cereal and milk party with your brother.
That's right.
You talk about gratitude, right? You were talking about this earlier, and the abundance that we have around us. And I mean, that's just amazing. Like how much we take for granted in like Lucky Charms, like you said, and Count Chocula, just simple cereals that are right on the shelf that are totally accessible to so many of us. And we don't realize how fortunate we are to just be able to pour a glass, a bowl of cereal and some milk and just enjoy it, to the point where when you first got your first property, you literally had a cereal and milk party with your brother. I absolutely love that. So what I want to put a finer point on for our audience here is the first thing you did was you developed a network through BNI, and this could happen in any business association, community organization, chamber of commerce. There's so many out there, and in there you found someone who you connected with. And for you, it was the mortgage broker. For somebody else, it could be the real estate agent or the insurance broker or the carpet cleaner, whoever it is. The point is that you found the mortgage broker. There was something there that spoke to you. And in that, we talked about passion earlier. And in that, you found this passion for real estate. And here's what I love what you did was you still worked your job, but you educated yourself. And I mean, like for me to get to where I am today, it's the same thing that you're talking about. It's like taking that time to watch the video. Like I have, obviously, YouTube is so big now. So I learned a tremendous amount on YouTube about podcasting, about insurance, about owning a business. And then to your point, investing in it, of going to the seminars, of watching people speak, of listening to people speak, and buying their books, reading their books, their audio tapes. And then the biggest part, which was then you took action on it all, and you started purchasing, and you purchased more, and you did more, and you just compounded upon that. So I absolutely love that. And I love that you just shared that whole story and message with everyone, because that is the reality of things, is figuring all that out. So you speak on stages, and I think that everything you just talked about there is going to kind of answer my question here, but I want to ask it because I get asked the same thing. What is your desire to speak on stage? Like, why do you have this passion to stand in front of an audience and share all of this with them?
Every single person is given a gift in life by our Creator. Gives you something deep-rooted within you that when you know that's your gift and that's your conviction, there is no other alternative. So if the Creator gave you a gift today and said, here is your gift, for me to truly be grateful, I must use the gift. If somebody gave you a Christmas gift 2 weeks from now, and you took the gift and you used it in front of them, it would bring them utter joy. A lot of joy, a lot of gratitude, right? If you took the gift and re-gifted it to somebody and they found out, some people would be heartbroken.
Right.
So I believe if you identify that the Creator has given you a gift, your job, your duty is to use it. And I believe that the Creator has given me an incredible life, incredible perspective, and a life where I was able to accumulate wisdom. And I'm able to give this wisdom and share what I've learned for the purpose of inspiring people to take action and get out of their own way. And dude, it's a duty and it's a privilege. It's both. And it's an incredible, incredible gift that I'm extremely thankful for. Playing music at a young age positioned me and put me on stage to have some experiences that most stage speakers have never had. Like I've done everything from playing piano to creating worship moments to being on stage doing plays and productions. So I have all this experience that I've been able to bring into my adult life and utilize for this kind of purpose. So what I'm really passionate about is it's not so much the outcome. Like I think people get activated. People take action and the people win. But what I'm really passionate and grateful about is using the gifts that I've been given. And if you feel that way about your life, I think every person owes it to themselves to live in their giftings. I think there's 3 layers to life. It's very basic. Financial freedom is number 1, because until you have financial freedom, then all your decisions are based on financial scarcity. Once you finally have financial freedom, then the next one is really freedom of time. Really giving yourself permission, and time is really about self-worth. And then once you have enough money and you have enough time, the third one is your willingness, ability to live a purpose-driven life based on the giftings you have. So I'm living in my purpose. I'm living in my calling. And to me, there's no greater way of doing life, right? But it took for me having to get the financial thing in place, the time thing in place, and living in true abundance. So I think that's really my desire for people. My desire is when I see people in a place and they're living in bucket 1 or bucket 2 gets into bucket 3. Let's get you living a purpose-driven life, because true impact happens there. True gratitude and growth happens there. Not just financial growth, but all the other areas of growth that we have. So I love seeing people win. I love seeing people rally around causes. Last weekend I was in Dallas with a friend of mine, Brad, who's the apartment king. And I was on his stage. And in a room of 600 people, we were able to raise enough money to donate over 500 wheelchairs to Mexico. They just came from Mexico the week before, where they're able to put people into wheelchairs that have zero mobility. I'm talking about parents carrying their parents down the road in like a backpack. I'm talking about parents carrying their children place to place. One wheelchair impacts 10 people in Mexico. So for me to live in that level of impact and be on that stage and do that and help raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for that, it took me having to go through my own personal growth of financial and time freedom to speak with that level of conviction. So those moments, dude, are the real impact for me. The thing that all of us have the ability. If you are in North America, you are a world changer. You can absolutely be a world changer. My goal is to donate $1 million of my own every single year, in addition to all the other monies that I raise. And I've been able to raise something from some incredible groups, $500,000 to fight child trafficking a few months ago on stage in Ohio. I was able to raise $151,000 to help an orphanage in Mexico. I was able to raise more money for Haiti to go build homes in Haiti through the Frank McKinney Foundation. Like for me, dude, it's all about impact. So the stage is how I get to do that. And every single person listening has an opportunity to create impact in this world. You just got to be willing to get out of your way, get out of the financial poverty, get out of the scarcity, and kill the addiction. Are you resonating with me? You see what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness, am I resonating with you? Because so I'm half Haitian. My audience is pretty well aware of that. I've spoken about it on air before. And we have an organization called Forgotten Children of Haiti. And that organization supports an organization in Haiti called the St. Luke Foundation, where Father Rick Frechette founded it and built pretty much a self-sustained community there in Haiti, where there's a hospital, there's an orphanage, there's a school, there's a bakery. I mean, they just are able to take care of themselves there, and they're pretty they're secure to some extent, or were. And so recently, Father Rick actually reached out to us, and in despair is the best word I can come up with from the email that was sent. In that, the kidnappings that are happening there are rampant. Staff is being kidnapped now, something that he never had to deal with before. Because of the care that he gave to the community, the gangs respected the people within that community, and so left them alone, but no longer. And so because of that, many of the people, his staff, are leaving the camp, are leaving that secure place. And so he's struggling. It's something that he's dedicated his life to since the 90s to build and create, and now is struggling with. And, we can't go there. Most medical missions have been stopped from going there because of the kidnappings and the danger that's around it. And literally, within this week, we've been texting, my family and I have been texting on what kind of fundraiser can we create? What can we do to cause an impact? My organization, Den 10, we already give back as much as we can to different local non-for-profits, but we also give back to FCH, to Forgotten Children of Haiti. But I am interested in how you are able to raise that much money. And I'm sure we can get into some more detail offline, but I'm not the only organization struggling, non-for-profit organization that's struggling to get donors and donations. It sounds like you have a bigger idea or vision on how you're able to get these donations. So I'm interested in that part.
I believe the power of collaboration is so huge, and there's a lot of people that have stages and audiences. A lot of these audiences and stages, they want to give. When you live with the ethos of giving first, then gratitude, then growth, you get to build incredible relationships. So I get called in to use my gifting, which is stage speaking and engagement. So I've been an MC, musician, speaker, educator, trainer. And when I'm on these stages, I'm always asking the host, what are you doing for charity work? What's the purpose of this event? What are we here to do? And either solicited or non-solicited, I'm usually in that conversation. And I usually go, especially in a room full of real estate investors, it's probably the easiest room to raise money in. Why? Because we're talking big deals, big numbers, big AUM. And when you finally get with the host of the event and go, hi, I'll come and speak, I'll come deliver something incredible, but let's go do something impactful in this world. So I think number one is strategically understanding that events are better when people do something corporately. Communities are better off when they give corporately. So it's engaging hosts and owners of communities to find a way to include your charity, your mission, in a corporate giving opportunity. But you have to live with the heart of conviction, a heart of giving. And if you're able to curate that room, like when I was in Dallas, my friend says, hey, we want to raise some money. And, a couple of weeks before, I said, we're going to raise $100,000 easily. He says, really? I said, yeah, easily $100,000. You've got 600 people in the room, all of them multifamily. There's no way on earth we're not going to raise $100,000. When we got in the room, it was I just saw it, clear as day. People want to give. Now, you can go through all the other benefits of it's a tax write-off and this and this and this and this, which it is. But when you're able to create a moment of conviction, a moment of real engagement with people, you'll find them opening their hands and their hearts from this posture to this posture. And to me, that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. So it's as simple as reaching out to your friends in real estate and business who have communities going, what are you doing? Not just for profit, what are you doing for purpose? My friend Cole has a group called Thrive, and his whole thing is to create for-purpose companies across the U.S. For profit, add another 10% on top, and all of that goes to charity. Run a business that's also producing a charitable element. Every single dollar has a charitable contribution. So I think it's that. It's being relational. It's understanding that people want to give. And it's really creating opportunities where the host and the audience can come together corporately and support a cause. Simple as that. The cause we supported is called Share the Love. That was the one we just did last weekend. OUR is Operation Underground Railroad Project, fighting human trafficking. Supported the Tebow Foundation, also for human trafficking. Supported Frank McKinney's. So we just have to make it a priority for us. And that's what I would challenge your audience and even you. Let's make it a priority. Let's call friends with groups and events and go, put me on your stage and let's go do some good in the world.
That's great. Yeah. And scale it as well. I mean, that's really the big thing. Like I do a event every month and it's called Take Action. The event's called Take Action. We just had Take Action, Collaborate for Impact. We have another one coming up in January, Take Action, something about changes. I kind of forget the title because we just planned it. But we always, our entire door is a suggested donation to a different charity. And we usually, I've just handed out some checks. We're raising anywhere from $300 to $500 to $600 from each event. Now, my goal, and I'm definitely going to talk with you more about this off air, but I definitely learned a little bit just now from what you just shared, is to get it to that $100,000 mark, because that's really what we need for what we're supporting in Haiti, is that he needs that money to be able to keep the hospital going, which is huge, the orphanage going, which is huge, and then of course all the other stuff, all the other elements. You touched on.
I would add this one piece in there for business and for charities and for life and for fitness. It all comes down to the same thing for me. Have clear targets that people can rally around. Don't raise money. I'm never just doing real estate. Doing real estate is a horrible practice. There's no outcome. I'm generating $100,000 from real estate operations. I'm buying $5 million of assets under management. I have a clear target, and then I share that target with people. So if I'm ever doing a charity, I'm never raising money. I'm raising $100,000 or 50 or 30 or 200 or whatever that is, and we fight like hell to hit that target, everybody. That's the way that I would instantly recondition or rethink that. I think it's a drastic difference between we're raising money, we're raising $100,000, and this is exactly why, and I want all of you to participate.
Love that. Absolutely love that, because we do forget about that with non-for-profit work, in that we, for our businesses, we set the target, and then in non-for-profit work, you're 100% right. It's we need to raise money, but there's no clear number. So I certainly will be sitting down with a pen and paper and doing that for sure. I appreciate your insight there. And obviously you're a great resource for any of our non-for-profits that are listening to reach out to you, and all of your info will be in the show notes for them to find. I want to get into this idea of self-worth, because you got this great picture on your website of a before and after of yourself, of losing weight. And, you were talking about time and finding time and overcoming that struggle of finding time, and you relate it to self-worth. And I'm very interested in that concept. And if you could elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, so time management really is about self-worth, because if you can't respect you and you don't value you, how can anybody else value? Most of us don't have time because we live a reactive life. We pick up the phone. I have rules in my life. These are hacks. I never answer the phone, ever.
I agree.
Okay? I live a proactive life, not a reactive life. If you can just make that one clear distinction, it'll change the quality of your day. Don't be responding and reacting to every single thing. Be proactive. So, I believe that I have so much incredible work to do on this planet. And I think about the man that I am at 94 years old, sitting in a rocking chair, saying, did I do on this earth with what I was entrusted to do? That thought is so prevalent to me every single day that I don't want to do anything that takes me away from that purposeful work. So when you respect yourself and you respect is obvious. The way you treat your body, the way you treat your mind, the pollution you allow into your life, the relationships you cultivate, that's respect. Respect is a very, very obvious thing that we can see in people. Start working out instantly. Why? Because you respect your body enough to create longevity in your life. If you don't value your health, nobody will value your business. End of story. Take care of your primary relationships, your wife, your husband, your kids. Make that a priority, not a last-minute thing. Take care of your spiritual development, your emotional development. That's all self-respect. So this is my kind of core 6, if you will. I take care of my body first, because if I take care of the body, it'll help me take care of my mind. Simple as that. For me, it's biology before psychology. Take care of the biology. So my body goes first. Every single day I'm up at 4:15 and go to the gym with my NFL buddy John. Then I take care of my mind, and that's simply making decisions. That's what mind is. I made a decision to get up at 4 o'clock every day. I don't feel like it. I don't want to do it. I don't like early mornings. I'm not an early morning nut. I just made a clear decision. So I get up and I go because I made a decision. I stick with it. Emotional resiliency is the one most of us need to practice the most. Whatever happens around you, stop reacting and start responding. That's emotional resiliency. Things will happen. How are you dealing with it? What is your relationship to the events in your life? Then you have spiritual, and that's your grounding. Your faith, your core values, your belief system, your measure of right from wrong. You take care of those 4 elements, and there's only 2 buckets left. Your relational wealth. I'm the richest person I know from a relationship standpoint. I have incredible people in my life. And those are things I foster and I value and I contribute to. And then your financial wealth. If I get these 6 areas in my life dialed in, nobody can ever monetize my time. Nobody can ever monopolize the things that I'm doing. Like, I will give time where time is due. I live out of a calendar. I work about 3 days a week, about 5 hours a day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Fridays are for podcast interviews and fun. That's why it's Friday. Mondays are called Music Mondays. I produce, create, write, record music on Mondays. Saturdays are for me, my wife, and family. And Sundays are for me, my wife, the Lord, and other things we're doing. So I'm not available Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm available Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you're a podcast host, maybe Friday. Yep. So I've created a schedule for my life where, here's what I've learned. Most of what we think are emergencies aren't actual emergencies. Okay? Somebody's calling you over a problem. It's not really a problem. It's their problem. That's the difference. I hire great people. I train them well. I support them. I pay them well. I surround myself with incredible friends who are business leaders, thought leaders. Like the person I work out with used to play in the NFL for the Ravens. And I was with him this morning, and he kicked my ass. Kicked my ass this morning. And that's who I want to work out with, is the guy who's 3 times my size, and I'm trying to fight and compete to keep up with him. That's who I want to work out with. I want that same version in my mental friends, in my financial friends, in my spiritual friends. I want to be the most humble person in the room, willing to lower my ego and grow every day. If you have self-respect in that capacity, I promise you, you will have all the time in the world. It's people who have no self-respect, who cheat on their diet, who cheat on their relationships, cheat on their goals, watch TV all day, binge watch Netflix and Instagram and Facebook, always living in a reactionary environment, always surrounded by negativity. You're never, ever going to find time. You do not find time. You find self-respect. That's what you find. When you find respect, you will create time. They have this old thing that the busiest person in the room can always take on more work. Because the right work always has room. There's always room for the right conversations and the right work and the right revenue, the right relationships. There's always room in my schedule. But there is 0 room for the wrong. The people I spend time with, like the Bible, rather hot. We have run the same race at the same pace. That's my secret. What's my race? Impact, revenue, helping people, charity work. That's my race. And you have to run it at my pace. Then we can be great friends. But if you don't run my race at my pace, if you're not hot, then you're cold. And I think far too many people are living in lukewarm relationships. People who are 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door in your life. If this happens in marriage, it leads to divorce. What about your friends, your acquaintances, your peer groups? How many people are you spending time with that you're not actually building with? And I would challenge people, make your circle smaller, not wider. make your circle smaller. And dude, you will find, and I have a million other productivity hacks on how I do this, but you will find that your life becomes extremely simple and not complicated.
I absolutely love everything you just said there. You do have a wonderful relationship with your wife and are planning some vacations and travel and destinations. And could you share a little bit more about that in your personal life too? Because the reason why I asked this question is seeing someone in your shoes right now of successful real estate, successful speaker, and crowdfunder or raising capital for non-for-profits and what you're doing, author, all of the different things. I think people think, well, then I don't have time for family. And I loved that you talked about your Saturday and your time with family and carving out that time. So I'm interested in these vacations and how you plan them and how you expand on that relationship.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple main pointers. Number one, look at your calendar from an annual perspective at the beginning of the year. This is a great time to do this. I actually got some of this thinking from Jesse Itzler. He's got this thing called the Big Ass Calendar. You can Google it, go buy one. And the way this kind of works is at the beginning of the year, before you put on all of your work and all this other stuff, start with the big vacations. Start with the things that you're going to actually value at the end of the year. Put the big vacation on there. Put the things that build your skills on there. Music. So I'm going to be 2023 is going to be an interesting year. I'm going to be taking on a whole bunch of music lessons. And I'm already a very proficient, very qualified musician, but I want to get even better in some instruments. Taking on music, I'm taking on dance lessons, I'm taking on all this other stuff. I'm putting all that stuff in my calendar. I'm putting my trips in my calendar. I'm putting the very important things in my calendar first, and then I'll build work around that. Not, I'm doing work, and when I have time, I'll take a vacation. It's never going to happen. Step one. Step two is simple. Step two is I decided to create kind of an algorithm for my day. And it works like this. The very first thing I do is I take care of my fitness because I have to. Now, what does that mean? That means I hired a fitness trainer. I got on the best possible program, my buddy John's program called Suprahuman. Suprahuman is the best fitness program for entrepreneurs and CEOs on the planet. And I don't do any extra things that I don't have to do, but I do exactly what I have to do. Okay? My fitness every single day has to happen. My mindset has to happen every single day, so I spend time. And then I actually start the day at 9 a.m. with my wife. We have relationship. We have conversation. Then I'll go work for a couple hours if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then we go for a walk at about 12 o'clock. So my wife and I have already pre-planned our day. We don't just react to the leftovers. We're intentional on the time that we're supposed to spend together and put it in your calendar. It's not cheesy to put your wife in your calendar. It's not cheesy to put time with your kids in your calendar. I have a belief that if you're a parent, your kid doesn't want to spend 4 hours with you while you're all watching TV. Your kid wants to spend 1 hour with you while you're actually playing with your kid. Right? But people sit there for 4 hours like I'm hanging out with my kids. No, you're not. They're on an iPad and you're watching the game. That's not spending time with your kids. You're better off to take the kid, go do something awesome, and then go and do other things. So I think it's that, dude. The relationship with my wife, so I'm really excited. We're actually planning a trip to Bora Bora, which will be really cool for us. By the way, we travel a lot across America because we speak a lot. So I'm speaking a lot or visiting friends that are speakers, and we're probably here for about 1 week of every month or less. And we're typically on the road traveling. I just came back from Dallas and then Vegas. We've got properties in Vegas, so we're kind of all over. Rather doing real estate stuff or running retreats or going to events or speaking at events or doing music or whatever. So we're kind of all over. But I think doing life with your partner together and being super clear and intentional on it's us and then everything else. It's me and my creator first, right? That's how I have self-worth. Me and my wife second, and then me and everybody else. A customer I'll never take a phone call when I'm with my wife from a customer. Why would I do that? And I think it's that. Creating clear rules for your life. I call them rules of engagement. Right? And if you have clear rules of engagement in your life, life becomes very simple. Not always easy, but simple. And I just think that's a better way to live life. I don't want to create the rules as I go. I want to be clear. One rule I have is I don't negotiate with terrorism. If I have a customer who's terrorizing us, a friend, an employee, I don't negotiate. Instead of getting into the back and forth and the drama and all this other thing. So I think people need to create more rules. Rules, super healthy. Help you live the life by design, not life by default.
That's fantastic. There's a lot there, and I love that intentional. You talked about it before, being proactive, being intentional, and I like that you brought up design because that is the name of the Take Action. It's design your future. That's a word that we actually really liked when we came up with it. Something I want to touch on that you said in there that I want to make sure our audience is very well aware of what you just said. You are proficient in music. We talked about that before on how you create music, and yet you're still seeking to become better, investing in becoming a better musician. And the reason why that stuck with me is I teach public speaking, and there's people that say, hey, look, I can get up in front of an audience and speak. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But to become better, you need to invest in it. Just like I invest in public speaking courses. I have a mentor in public speaking. I rehearse in public speaking. And it's anything. It's in business. It's what we've talked about with the real estate, with everything. If you are doing something, there's always room for improvement, and it's about self-investment. And you yourself just said it. You're investing in something that's fun too, right? That's a hobby. And so I absolutely love that. As we start coming to a conclusion here, something that stands out on your website and in the name of your company is humble, right? And what stood out for me, and when I was reviewing your website, was you have this really cool image of yourself, this black and white image, leaned up against your Lamborghini, and these bright red sneakers, and then it says humble and being humble. And there's this contrast in the name humble and what we see there, right? And so I'm very interested in how you can help share with us the reasoning behind all of that, because I know that there is.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is liberate this word.
Love it.
Redefine this word. I think a lot of people look at humble, they look at this thing called humility and they see a weakness, and I see a strength. So there's a dichotomy for me. Humility is a superpower, not a weakness. Humility will allow you to reach the corners of your mind and heart to pull things out that you can't pull through arrogance. You know, somebody that I heard speak one time said that, you know, there's two kinds of people. There's those people that are arrogant and ignorant, and then another kind of person is arrogant and humble. Sorry, ignorant and humble, ignorant and arrogant. Either way, we're ignorant. We don't know what we don't know. So to me, humility is this: asking great questions, not developing an ego, not speaking on top of people, being kind, really seeking to understand versus seeking for agreement, which is a whole other podcast. I'm not trying to convince you to come to my side, but I will argue to understand, because maybe I'm missing something. See, again, progressive learning is so powerful in my world that I would rather I'll take the underdog position. He's just a humble dude. That's right. I'm a humble dude. I'm a humble dude who practices humility. The other reason for this is, as a young man, I was very easily prone to anger. I could snap in a heartbeat. And aggression and ambition and anger will help a young man make a little bit of money, but they'll never become truly wealthy. Because you end up working by yourself. You end up knowing everything. You end up being arrogant about life. And there's nothing worse than arrogance, because it stops all growth. So I adopted my own personal mechanism, which was practice humility. Hey man, I need to practice some humility. I need to learn. I need to take an L. That's fine. And humility is good. It's not bad. Just like adversity is good. Also not bad. But I'm redefining this word humility. So yeah, you see a guy humble, and it's like, he's not humble. He has red shoes. Okay? He's not humble. He has a Lamborghini. Would you rather my shirt says arrogance? So I think what you have has nothing to do with who you are. I can have a Honda or a Lambo. It doesn't change the content of my heart. I live in and you'll see both humble and extremely hungry. You will see both. I believe in the power of and, not or. It's not humble or strong. Humble and freaking hungry. I'm humble, I practice humility, and I practice aggression. You'll see both. And it's okay to be both. It's okay to have moments of solitude and moments of productivity. It's okay to have moments of struggle and moments of success. I think I'm not about throwing labels on people and going this or that. It's this and that. We can be struggling and happy. We can have a good marriage and trying to work through some problems. We can be working towards becoming more healthy and struggling with weight loss at the same time. So I want to embrace people. I want to embrace life. I want to embrace growth. I want to embrace opportunities. And I don't want ego to get in the way.
Awesome.
People won't like that response, but that's how I live.
I love that response, and I know our audience does too. Finally, the book that you put out, we touched on it in the beginning of this really awesome cover. I'm very interested in the book. I'm very interested in what it shares, the message it has in there.
Communism to capitalism. It's basically my story. It talks about a lot of the life lessons along the way. And I think the main message, if you read between the lines, is you have to choose internally, where do you want to live? You want to live in a place of communism, a place of doubt, shame, a place of guilt, a place of fear, a place of victimness? Or do you want to live in a place of capitalism? And it's not just financial capitalism. It's the ability to pursue a purpose-driven life full of abundance. So if you read between the lines, that's really what the book is saying. But it shares the story, and it helps people understand the contrast. And I hope the book can give somebody perspective on this versus this. And perspective, I think, is the gateway to abundance.
And how can people get the book?
Amazon, my website, humble.ceo. All the proceeds go back to Caring House Project in Haiti. In fact, all of my content, everything I ever do that's content or books or all that stuff, all of it goes to charity. So humble.ceo is a great place to go. Amazon, and you guys can grab it there.
And it goes to the Caring House Project in Haiti. So very much appreciated, as we've touched on already in the podcast. Very near and dear place to my heart, and so I really, really appreciate your work there, and I do appreciate all the work that you do with all the non-for-profits and giving back. This has been just fantastic meeting you here. I'm looking forward to having you not just as a podcast guest, but and a friend. So we'll talk more about that off air. But thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.